Hello, you sentient ball of stardust. My name is Casey Davis. I'm a therapist and I'm an author of the book How to Keep House While Drowning, where I talk about ways to make it a little bit easier to take care of yourself when you're overwhelmed, stressed, have mental health issues, physical health issues, or maybe you're just in a hard season of life. Maybe you're looking for a place that you can come and listen to some practical advice. This is a podcast for all of the self-help rejects. We're going to talk about skills for survival and self-kindness. And I'm going to leave the pop psychology at the door. I promise not to tell you to meditate or to journal. We're just going to give you some really insightful conversations with hopefully some practical advice. So I don't believe you need to pick yourself up by the bootstraps. I don't want you to just try harder, and I don't believe that laziness exists. So join me over on Struggle Care, where we can find compassionate solutions that help us function a little bit better.
New on Curiosity Stream. How do you connect a 16th century potato to limitless energy production? Could Napoleon's toothpick have a direct link to a machine that predicts the future? And how can a 1700s conch shell chart a course to humans connecting their brains to the internet? James Burke's visionary series Connections returns for a new generation. Experience all new Connections. With monthly, annual, and bundled plans, find the one that works for you at curiositystream.com.
Stoveleg Media, igniting conversation.
Hey y'all, how's it going? It is me, your girl, your host, Elena Grace, and you're listening to another episode of I've Been Thinking. So welcome. Welcome back. If it's your first time, welcome in. Happy October. Happy spooky season. Those of you who have been around for a while, you know the drill when it comes to the first episode of the month. And, you know, if it's your first time, maybe this is what brought you here. So, first episode of the month, every month is either like a book or a movie of the month. And if I say month one more time, I'm probably going to lose it already. And a while back, I asked y'all to let me know what you wanted for October, because I love the spooky content, right? I love a theme. So I was like, let me know what you guys want for the first. Do you want a thriller or a horror book? Do you want a scary movie? Do you want a spooky documentary? And y'all chose spooky documentary. So here we are. And in case you don't follow me on Instagram, I told everybody on Instagram this already on Tuesday. That's today when I'm recording. I don't usually wait until the week of the episode to record, right? I usually have everything done ahead of the time. I try to be semi-professional, right? That did not happen with this one because I was trying so hard to find a good spooky documentary to give you guys, something that was well done, something that was at least semi-credible, and something that was actually spooky, did actually make you feel a little, ooh, heebie-jeebies, you know what I'm saying? So, I might have done that. I'm really not sure. I am unsure about how I feel about this one, but it's compelling, okay? It's mildly compelling. I'll be honest with you. This is not one of the most compelling documentaries I've ever seen, but I wanted to give you something that was new to me as well, not something that I already knew like a lot about, because I wanted this to be a learning experience for the both of us, me and you, the listener. So I have seen like Hunt for the Skinwalker. I've seen all of the Missing 411s. I've seen all of those, and they're good. They're good, and they are compelling. They're really good. There's so many good ones, but there are also a lot of bad ones. This one is somewhere in between. It had like 3.5 or 4 stars on Amazon Prime, which is where I watched it. And so I was like, okay, it's got like 3.5, 4 out of 5. That's pretty decent, right? And then I checked after I watched it, I like did a little bit more research and I was like, oh, it's got like 5.9 out of 10 on IMDb. Oh, well, like we're going to roll with it anyway. So here she is. Today we are talking about the docu-movie A Haunting on Dice Road, The Hell House. Now, it was good, okay? I mean, good like to an extent. Let me explain. So it was spooky. I will tell you that. And I am like, I mean, if you've known me for a long time, you probably know I am a freaking scaredy cat. But I've gotten much braver in the past few years. Like, I can watch American Horror Story all by myself and not have to hide under a blanket. I can even do it at night. I can even watch American Horror Story at night and not have to sleep in the same bed as Allison. Okay? So, that's pretty impressive for me. But I watched this documentary by myself. It was just me and Win home. Adam wasn't here. And in the first 15 minutes, I kept looking to make sure the door was locked because it was creepy. They do a really good job of making the movie creepy. Like vignettes around the footage when they're interviewing to like make it seem not older, but make it seem darker and spookier in the room. They have tons of testimonies from people who lived in the house, from people who investigated at the house. They've got testimonies from cops, which I think was really impressive and really important to the credibility of the story as a whole, because the cops got called a lot in the history of this home. So let me tell you first, read what the, if I could get my stuff together, let me read you from IMDb about this movie, like what it says. Okay, so this is the cover summary. You know, this is like what comes up in the details page on Amazon Prime or Netflix when you click on a movie. It says, and this is what roped me in. This is why I chose this one specifically. It says, an entire year of investigation, multiple law enforcement agencies, hundreds of police reports, months of undercover surveillance, thousands of man-hours, numerous polygraph tests, a string of mysterious fires, a series of unexplained explosions, life-threatening injuries, and one family's worst fears realized. Witness the journey unfold as investigators reopen the most documented paranormal case in U.S. history in an attempt to solve a mystery spanning 4 decades. And I will absolutely give it to them, all accurate. I would totally say this is one of the most documented paranormal cases in United States history because there are literally police reports for like every night at one point. And that's one of the things that they talk about. They have the son of the original owners, the people who built the house. They have his son. He lived there until he was like 17, he said. He comes on the show, and at first, I'm pretty sure he was like, we never had any encounters. And I was like, okay, well, then why are you here? Then he goes, but the cops were called for many instances. And at one point, he explains how after a certain point, the cops were called every single night for the rest of the time they lived there. Like there were periods of time where this happens on Dice Road in Michigan, in Saginaw or Saginaw County. I'm not positive. They just keep calling it Saginaw. And apparently Dice Road is like super haunted. So I'll tell you about that here in a second. If like I tell you a little bit more about that. But anyway, so like I said, the original owner's son, he comes on and he's talking about it, and he said that the Saginaw police were called literally every night, and the police like confirmed this. There were officers on this documentary that were like, yeah, we were literally there every single night. Like we just knew what time Harold, that was the man who built it, the dad, they're like, we knew what time Harold got home, and we made sure that we were around, because when he got home from work was when a lot of, like, that was when the cops would get called, when he got home from work. And while I agree that that sounds wildly suspicious, I think it might be because like most of the activity seemed to be like when he was in the house, because it seemed to kind of be aimed at him. Okay. And I will tell you more about this in a few minutes. So hang on to that. So a lot of the activity seemed to be aimed at Harold, the dad, the original builder. Now, they were like fine for a long time in the house. Like they built it. They don't know if it was like attached to the land, whatever is haunting the house, like any of that. But they said that one night they heard pounding on, like they would, every once in a while leading up to this moment, they had heard like knocking and pounding on the walls, like a few handful of times leading up to this major incident. And they were like, there's like prowlers outside, call the cops, blah, blah, blah. They refused for the longest time to admit that it could be anything paranormal, unexplainable. So then one night there's pounding on the kitchen window, and it's pounding, pounding, pounding. Pound so hard the glass shatters and goes flying all inside the kitchen. And after that point is where every single night going forward, something happened, something paranormal, unexplainable happened, and the police were called. And there are so many police reports from that period, from the 70s, where this man is calling the police and saying, I need you to come out here. And the police come back and they're like, it's the same thing as last night. Except sometimes it wasn't. That's the thing. And they go on, they share those stories of like the everyday occurrences that they would have there, but they also share their stories of the weird stuff, like the exceptionally weird stuff that happened there as well. Like them hearing things happening, them seeing things happening. One police officer was inside the house when he and some other police officers and the people who lived there, the family that lived there, they were all inside the house, and everyone was accounted for, and they saw a knife lift up out of the knife block and go flying towards one police officer, and it landed in the wall. In the wall. That's so crazy. Like, that's wild. That's so cool. I don't want it to happen to me, but it's cool. And, you know, it sounds, if you are like a paranormal fan like I am, like I love cryptids, I love the paranormal, I love all of that. As much of a scaredy cat as I am, I eat it up. I want to learn everything about it. So if you know anything about it, that rather sounds like a pretty typical poltergeist. Poltergeists are often associated with demons. Like for some people, they believe that poltergeists are demons. There's no possible way that they're anything else, which is an interesting stance to take. I don't necessarily agree or disagree. I'm not sure where I stand on that one. Poltergeists do tend to be negative energies, though, so totally agree with that one. But anyway, this was just really interesting for me because then they bring a medium in. Like the investigators who are filming, they bring a medium in, and she's talking about what she feels, what she sees, blah, 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 all of that stuff. And mediums, I'm kind of give or take on, right? But she's like, okay, so the spirit is a female. Blah, 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 blah. I'm getting a lot of negativity in this room. And they're like, okay, noted. So later in the investigation, let me flip through my notes. I'm sorry. Hear that paper. Later in the investigation, the paranormal investigators who are making the documentary, documentarians, if you will, I think that really is the word, they are going through the house with their electronic, the little things that beep and light up and are like, there's a ghost here. So they're going, I can't remember what they're called. They're going through the house with those, and the like main guy that is like doing most of the narrating and everything, he goes into that room where the medium kind of highlighted on. He was like, she talked about a lot of negativity coming from in here, and especially the floor. Well, he gets like a major hit in there, and it's a bathroom. So the thing about not EVPs, hold on, I gotta Google it. Whatever, I can't remember the term for it, and Google's no help. And also our Wi-Fi is trash right now, so that's just some tea on my personal life. Anyway, it's the things when you get like a reading, and it's not like a voice or something talking to you, but it's just like a reading. And it can be caused by like, or it can be affected, it can be changed by, microwaves, or like having faulty wiring that can show up on these little detectors. All of that stuff can affect it. And those things can also affect how you feel in your body. So many times that has discounted paranormal phenomena, and people have said, oh, it was just these exposed wires or these, specific kind of pipes that were bouncing the radiation from the microwaves off of them, and it was doing XYZ to affect how I felt, and I felt like I was being watched all the time and I was having hallucinations, whatever. Like, that's a real thing. That kind of stuff happens. But I will absolutely give these guys credit in this documentary that they were like, okay, our beeper is going off on the floor of this room. Let's move it around. Let's see. They're not getting anything, at least on camera. And they have somebody crawl under the floor and get underneath that room. And they're like, okay, what are you seeing? Are there any exposed wires? Are there any weird pipes going right underneath here? And he's like, no, there's nothing out of the ordinary, nothing that there shouldn't be. And then he's like, hold on. There's something buried in the mud underneath the house. And the lead guy is like, okay, well, don't stick your hand to it. Like, it could be a transformer or something, whatever. Who the hell would put a transformer in the mud underneath the house? Anyway. And the guy that's under the house is like, no, it's like a jar or something. Okay, so this brings us to kind of the climax of the story. This is like an underlying thread through the entire documentary. So at the beginning, some of the people who lived in the house or lived next door to the house, I want to say they were next door neighbors when they were younger. I didn't write it down exactly who they were, but I'm fairly certain that they were neighbors. And some of them live in the house now. They were talking about how when they were younger, they remember when this happened, and they came home one day, and over the garage of the haunted house, there were 3 X's, which is apparently the sign of the devil. I don't know. And they were like, oh, it was very satanic. It was very occult, blah, blah, blah. Well, the son, when this is like brought up to him, the son tells this story. And keep in mind, the son was like a young man he was a kid and a young man in the 70s. So he's like in his 50s, 60s now. What year is it? Yeah, 50s or 60s now at this point when he's on the show. And he's like, yeah, I remember this one day, this woman came to the house and asked my dad if he wanted to sell. And he told her no, he wasn't interested. Like, this is the family's farm and the house that they built, and he loved it. And she seemed kind of put off, but she was like, okay. And she came back again. And basically the dad went and saw the house to this woman. And one of the witnesses that was in the documentary giving her testimony about like all of these weird things happening at the house and remembering things and everything, she said, I know, and that woman has said to me specifically, I am an, quote, ordained witch. I'm very confused about who calls themselves an ordained witch. That feels very like verbally odd to me. I will be honest, but that I suppose is not the point right here. The point is that this man is in the crawl space. He pulls a jar out of the mud, and when they get it inside and open it up, there is a piece of like rolled up parchment or fabric, I'm not really positive which, inside, and it has Harold written on it. Harold is the name of the man who built the house, the dad who built the house, and his name has 3 X's crossed through it. So, while it absolutely could have been planted, and it is so weird to me that they did find it in their little investigation, I also know that nobody else I'm fairly certain they didn't share about anybody else getting in the crawl space and hunting around, right? So tell me how weird it is that this medium was like, oh, bad vibes on this floor specifically. And all of this stuff was centering around Harold. They find a jar in the crawl space that says Harold's name on it with 3 X's. And everybody remembers this witch who tried to buy the house and Harold wouldn't sell it. Like, I wish you could see the smile on my face because that is so funny. It's so funny. And if they made it up, it is like rich. That is like, you can barely write that. Like, it's not believable when it's written. But that is kind of what makes it weirdly believable, is that it doesn't seem like a real thing that would happen. So maybe it did? I don't know. I'm so skeptical. But it was creepy for sure. And they presented it in oh my gosh, Adam Robert, Anyway, I thought I'd put my phone on silent. Sorry, guys. Anyway, if they did put it in there as like a drama storyline, I mean, hell, they did a good job. They made it they made it like a whole thing. But if not, that is wild. Okay, and now here's the other thing. I've told you about the witch. I've told you about the group of cops who saw like poltergeist activity, about cops. I mean, literally, I don't know if I said this or not, but the cops staked this house out on multiple occasions back in like the 80s, I guess. And the 70s and 80s, I want to say. Staked it out. They stayed there, all kinds of stuff. They heard things, they saw weird things, but they never saw anyone doing them, okay? And that makes it very compelling to me. And then they bring the medium in for this investigation. They also, back in the day when they were trying to figure everything out, they brought in a parapsychologist, he called himself. And he works in with a paranormal group and studies paranormal stuff from Duke University in North Carolina, like the real Duke. He works there, or at least he did, studying the paranormal. And he did a bunch of stuff, like he was trying to figure out what was going on, how to get rid of it, all of that. He couldn't figure it out. So I've told you all of this. They had cameras set up through the night during the investigations that they were doing, and the cameras would capture, of course, we're there to capture things just in case they happen. And then the guy that was hosting, he had a camera on him also. I don't know if he had a cameraman or if he was carrying the camera around. I couldn't tell. I think he had a cameraman, but they caught some weird stuff, and it started off very sensible, normal weird stuff, like the radio turns on by itself in the kitchen, and the kitchen saw a lot of the hauntings. The papers on the refrigerator blowing in a wind that doesn't seem like it's there. Weird lights every once in a while, like orbs. A mist that kind of looks like a person, stuff like that. But then there was this psycho, excuse my language, there was this psycho fucking stuff that happened on those cameras as well. So there's multiple cameras where it looks super compelling, and it looks like a true full body apparition. Like, you can see through it, or you can see just half of its body and it sticks out around the door frame kind of, and it's super blurry and it's way in the back, and it looks kind of like it's peeking out around the door frame, and then it goes back. That is genuinely compelling. That makes me wonder, did they really get something? Is that real? That and some of the other minor stuff, very good, very interesting. But then here's the thing, is that they had a few, and I want to say it was the very last piece of evidence that they showed, and there was another one or two, it looked like an actual person walking through the barn loft. And it looked like a man with no shirt on almost, and a bald head walking through the barn loft. And I was like, what is this? Cannot be real. I literally cannot be watching one of Satan's grossest, most trailer park gas station demons walking around with no shirt on right now. If I've got to look at a demon walking around, can he be in some kind of fun period clothing, or B, can he be good looking? Isn't that supposed to be the vibe? Lucifer is the most beautiful thing God ever created. And then that's why, his fall was so but also why his why he's so tempting, because he's so beautiful. Shouldn't the demons be beautiful as well? That always confused me. I'm not going to lie. That has always been confusing and concerning. Why would demons be scary? Unless they feed off the fear. But then why would... I don't know. Today's not the day for theology, Elena. Today is the day for spooky. Okay, back to it. Yeah, but it's just wild. It was a wild documentary. Honestly, if you have Amazon Prime, it's like 90 minutes long. I'm not gonna say don't watch it. It was kind of fun to watch. So, yeah, that's it. That's the story of The Haunting on Dice Road, the Hell House. That's, long story short, that is the story. I mean, it really was wild to watch. Apparently, this is the 7th movie in the, quote, Haunted Saginaw series. So there is a filmmaker who's doing just a ton of different documentaries around this area where he lives to showcase these incredibly paranormal locations. And it seems that this area has a ton of paranormal. There were some that had Civil War relevance, although it was Michigan, which confused me, but still. Some that had Civil War relevance, some that were, cemeteries or this or that. But yeah, tons of people. And I'm looking at this article right now as I speak to you all, where there's people talking about experiences that they had at some of the locations where he covered, for these documentaries. And again, it was just so weird because some of it is super compelling. And that's why I want you to watch it, almost to tell me what you think. Watch it and tell me what your thoughts are on this. Because some of it is compelling. Some of it is something that I can totally see being like a ghosty boy doing. And then some of it is wildly out there, and I feel like they paid somebody at the 7-Eleven to walk through the barn loft. I don't know. I don't know how I feel. So, happy spooky season. Thanks for listening. Please let me know what you think. Let me know what you think about all of this stuff. Let me know if you think this movie is spooky, and tell somebody about the podcast. Yeah, that's that, pals. You know how it is. Follow us on Instagram at I've Been Thinking Pod. Let me know what you thought about this episode there. Follow wherever you listen to your podcast, so that way you make sure you're subscribed. You get a notification with every new episode. Make sure that you check out the Patreon if you can. Patreon.com/I've Been Thinking, or there's a link to it on the Instagram bio. That is just the most incredible way for you guys to support. You get tons of extra content there if you sign up for the Thinkers tier or above. If you don't want extra content and you just want to, throw a little change in the jar, so to speak, you can tithe to me, your goddess of thinking, and just hit the button for $3 a month, and you don't get anything extra. You technically can write it off on your taxes, because it's a charitable donation, and you're helping me out. So I would very much appreciate any help that you can give me, so that I can continue this project that I have so much faith in and so much fun with. So anyway, done with my rambling. Thank you guys for loving me, and thank you guys for listening. Happy spooky season once again. I love you. I'll talk at you next week.
Hello, you sentient ball of stardust. My name is Casey Davis. I'm a therapist and I'm an author of the book How to Keep House While Drowning, where I talk about ways to make it a little bit easier to take care of yourself when you're overwhelmed, stressed, have mental health issues, physical health issues, or maybe you're just in a hard season of life. Maybe you're looking for a place that you can come and listen to some practical advice. This is a podcast for all of the self-help rejects. We're going to talk about skills for survival and self-kindness. And I'm going to leave the pop psychology at the door. I promise not to tell you to meditate or to journal. We're just going to give you some really insightful conversations with hopefully some practical advice. So I don't believe you need to pick yourself up by the bootstraps. I don't want you to just try harder, and I don't believe that laziness exists. So join me over on Struggle Care, where we can find compassionate solutions that help us function a little bit better.
It's important to properly dispose of unwanted medication or sharps. MedProject offers free and convenient disposal options near you. To learn more, call 844-MED-PROJECT or visit medproject.org.